Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome back. So in previous lecture, we have created respective classes belongs to user registration form, right? So in this lecture, we'll continue same user registration form. So in previous lecture, we have created controller service, user service IMPL, entity, JPA repository. Now we are going to insert the data by using user registration form. So how we can insert the data? So if you want to insert the data, we have to send data from JSP to web controller, right? So how we can send the data from JSP to web controller? Yeah, I will explain you later. So before that, I just want to keep this table in center alignment. So then page will look good, right? So let me make this table center alignment. So let me go to user registration.jsp and central alignment. So this table I want to keep it in center alignment. Style and margin. There are set of margin left, control space, auto, and again margin right, auto. Generally in real time we should not write CSS related information directly. We should not hard code here in the JSP. So generally we used to write in CSS files, right? So for the time being, I'm writing inside the JSP. So margin left auto and margin right auto. Let's see what will happen. So now, so before starting the server, so let me check in database. So table, this is we earlier we have created manually, right? So now I don't want to create manually. So what we'll do, so we have created yesterday entity, right? So user entity. So user entity. So table name I have not specified. So if you specify the table name, then the moment I start the server, so user underscore entity table will be created. So instead of that, I want to specify table name. Table and name will be user table. So now if I start the server, so user table should create in database. Why? Because in application.properties we have given DDL auto property update. So what will happen if table will create if you start the server, right? So now, so user table will be created in database. Let me open the SQL. For the time being we don't have any table, right? Inside the application underscore database there is no tables available. So let me start the server, and after that user table should be created in database. Yeah, yeah, Tomcat started successfully and port 8080, right? So now let me open the database table, refresh the object browser. So now you can see user table is created. It has user ID, email, first name, last name, and password. So how table is created? So by specifying spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl auto property is equal to update. So now let me design JSP page. So I want to alignment properly. Okay, this table should come in center of the page. So how we can do that? So I just given margin left and margin right auto. So let me refresh the browser. We'll see whether it will come in center. Yes, table came to center of the page. So now I want to display this header also in center user registration form. Instead of user registration form, we'll give user registration. That will be look good. So let me create a div so that we can align this text in center. Style text align control space center. Now let me check. Yes, now our page look a little bit good, right? So let me set this button also in center alignment. So I don't want to keep this button inside the TD. Remove this TD and TR, not needed. You want to keep it outside of the table. Let me put div and put it in center. Then add style and text align center. So now submit button will come in center. Let's check. Yeah. So now a little bit good, right? Now page looks like a little bit fine. So now we have to send data from JSP to controller. So how we can send data to JSP to controller? So we need to write a action, right? So the moment you click the submit button, once we click the submit button, then request should go to the server nothing but request should go to the your controller. So how, so now what we have to do, we have to provide action, we have to perform some action. The moment you click the button, submit button, request should go to the controller. So for that we have to write action. So form tag will have action attribute. So here I will give save user URL, save user. So the moment we click the submit button, so form will perform an action and data will go to the controller. So let me write the method to receive the data from controller. So let me create the method for it. Public return string. So once we save the data, we have to return same JSP, right? So string save user. Let's create save user method and we have to return same JSP, and along once we submit the request, so we will show the success message whether user registered successfully or not, right? We have to show success or failure message. So what should be the HTTP request method? HTTP request method should be post. Why? Because we have to send data from JSP view layer. So we have to send data as part of body, as part of request body, right? So request method, HTTP request method should be post mapping. Post HTTP request method, and let me give the, let me stop the server, otherwise it will keep disturb us. So here we have to provide the URL. What URL we have given in JSP? So once we click the submit button, So this URL should be called, right, save user. So same we have to give it in controller, save user. The moment we submit that button, so request should come to save user method of user controller. So now that's it. So now we have to carry the data, right? So how we can carry the data from JSP to controller? So generally, with the help of @request to param, we can use and we can get the data. But problem here is, let's say your web page is having 10 fields or 20 fields. So then getting data as part of request param will be very difficult. So we have to carry all the data to controller as a one single object. So you might have learned in core Java, right? Encapsulation. So what is the meaning of encapsulation? So wrapping data into single unit. Wrapping up of data into single unit, nothing but encapsulation. So how we can wrap the data into single unit? We have to create the model or Pojo class. So let me create the model. So some people may have doubts, sir, we have already created user entity. So it has username, user first name, last name, email. So why can't we use user entity? So to receive the data from JSP to controller, we should not use entities. Why? Because entities are always we have to use to persist the data or to perform database operations. So we should not use it. You can use it, you can use, but still your code is work, code will work, but it's not a best practice. So we have to use entities to perform database operations. So from the JSP, if you want to send the data, we'll create model object nothing but DTO or something like that. DTO nothing but data transfer object. So why we need a DTO? So we have to send first name, last name, email, password, all four fields as a single object. So all four properties we have to get as part of one single object, wrapping all the data into a single unit. Okay, so now let's create model. So model is used to get the data from JSP page. So now let me create the package, model package, model or DTO, data transfer object. Let me put DTO. So data transfer object. Click on finish button and let's create a user DTO. Since we are going to insert user details, so I am giving name as user DTO. That's it. Click on finish button. So user DTO should have first name, last name, email and password. So already we have it in entity, right? So let me copy paste. So all the properties I'm just copying and user DTO I'm just pasting it here and remove these columns are not needed. Organize the properties, control A, control shift F. So properties will arrange properly. So let me create setters and getters methods. Source, generate, getters and setter methods. Select all and click on generate button. And also we need to override toString method. That's it. Our model object is ready. So now we can use this in controller to receive data from JSP. So go to user controller where we can pass. So we have to pass save user method argument. We have to pass model object as a save user method argument user DTO. user detail. That's it. So now let's go to your JSP, and this should be post request, right? So the moment we submit the data, it should be post request. If you don't specify, you can see form tag. Form tag should have form tag is having attribute called method. If you don't specify method, whenever you are submitting the request with the by clicking the submit button, by default it will be get request, get method. So since we are going to insert the data as part of body request, so then our HTTP request method should be post. So define instead of get post method. So data will go to as part of body, and all first name last name. So make sure all the properties first name last name email and password should match with your model properties, otherwise data will not map properly. So now let me run in debug mode to to show you whether data is coming to our controller or not. Let me put the breakpoint and start server in debug mode. There is a debug button, right? Just click on that, so server will start in debug mode. Yes, server started in debug mode. Close that. So now just clearing the console. Go to the browser and refresh the browser. Now let me enter the username Rasul Sheikh and email ID Java J2EE dot Rasul at gmail.com. Password test123. Let me click on submit button. Perfect. See, we got the not found 404. So create user not found. Why? Let's check the post user. So I have given it as a save user. So that is the reason it is unable to find. So let me give save user in user registration. So save user, right? Why it is going create user? So might be our page is not refreshed successfully. So let me refresh the page again. It has save user only, right? Both are save user only. So might be changes are not reflected. Let me refresh the browser and let me click on, let me enter the data again. Java J2EE dot Rasul at gmail.com. Test at 123. Let's click on submit button. Still it is going to create user method. I think it was cached in the browser. So let me clear the cookies. How you can clear the cookies? Control Shift Delete and clear the cookies. So clear the data and close and refresh the page again. Resubmit. Still it is going to create user. Let me stop the server and start the server again. Okay, so here we have given two action buttons by mistake. That is the reason it's not action is performing by create user. Let me delete one action. So I did not observe that. So already action is given here. So now action is equal to save user. So now it should work properly. Clear the console and instead of that I will come from click on register user. So since we have cleared the cookies, it's not available. Let me copy the URL user registration form and go to the browser, give that URL, click enter. Oh, server not started, so let me start the server in debug mode. The server started successfully. This you can skip by click on that or close this class. So now we have breakpoint, right? Let's execute now. User registration form and let me enter the data. Rasul Sheikh and gmail.com and password I will give test at 123. So some dummy data. So click on submit button. Now we can see our Eclipse is blinking, right? So now request came to our controller. Let's check whether data is coming or not. See, you can see data came successfully all together one object. So you can see here, just put cursor on user DTO object, then you can see email, first name, last name, password. User ID null, expected only. Why? Because we are not supposed to pass user ID, right? So user primary key will be generated by JPA. So we haven't passed the user ID, that is the reason it's null. And remaining values are came successfully: email, first name, last name, password. So now we have to send this data to service layer. So we have to write business logic in service layer. So let me stop the server as of now, and then so how we can carry this data to service layer? So we already created service layer, right? We have already created service object. So go to project explorer, there is a service package, and we have created a service implementation, but we have not written any business logic, right? In service layer also. And JPA repository we have created. Now before calling service method, let me write business logic in service method to save user, right? So let me create the method in user service interface abstract method. Let me give as of now void save user, and we have to pass user DTO. That's it. So we have declared abstract method, so this we have to override it in user service IMPL. Put cursor here, add an unimplemented methods. That's it. So now here, so we have to call JPA repository to insert the data. So we have to create JPA repository object. We already created a JPA repository, right, in previous lecture. So let me create an object of JPA repository, user JPA repository. Now we have to auto wire it. So who will create this object? Let's Spring Container will create the object of user JPA repositories. One singleton object will be created once you start the server. So now user JPA repository dot, there is a method called save method, right? Save. We have to pass entity. So how we can store data in database by using JPA repository? So we have to pass entity. Which entity? User entity. So now question here is, so how we can pass user entity here? Because in controller we got the data in model object user DTO. Now we need to pass this user DTO to our service layer. So now let me we already have business method, right? So I will implement later. So now service method is ready to save the user. So let me call this method from controller. So to call that method, service method, what we have to do? We have to create an object of user service object. User service. So we have to auto wire and user service dot where we need to call inside save user method dot save user. So user DTO we need to pass. That's it. Now this data will come to service layer. Now question here is how we can set data to user entity, because if you want to store the data we need to pass entity to JPA repository. So there is a one way to set the data. How we can set the data? We can create a user entity is equal new user entity. So after that we have to set the data which is coming from model object. How we can set? User entity dot set first name and user DTO dot get first name. So once you set all the data, user entity dot set last name, then user DTO dot get last name. So like that we can set the data and we can pass entity to JPA repository of save method. But here, so let's say if you have two or four variables, four properties, then this approach will be good. But in real time, generally your web page will may have 10 properties, 15 properties, more than 20 properties also. So that time setting data to entity from model object, so it will be very difficult, right? Manually if you want to set the data from DTO to entity, it will be problem, right? So if you have 10 properties, 15 properties, 20 properties, very difficult to set the data. So instead of that, we'll create a model mapper, and that mapper will convert automatically user DTO to user entity and user entity to user DTO. So let's create a model mapper to convert DTO to entity. Most important concept, guys. Some people will ask you in interview how you can convert DTO to entity and entity to DTO. So there is a concept called model mapper. So to make use of that, so we have to add dependency in pom.xml. So I don't want to do like this. I don't want to set data like this. Okay, for the time let it be as of now. So let me add dependency in pom.xml. Almost time taken here. I think almost half an hour video. So we'll do it in next lecture. Okay. So what we can do? So in next lecture, we'll create model mapper and then we can set data from entity to DTO, and then we will insert the data in database. So guys who are all watching newly, so you can subscribe my channel and you can learn all the concepts. So you can go to youtube.com/Rasul hyphen Sheikh slash playlist. So there is a channel name called Java Cafeteria. You can subscribe and you can learn all the concept from Spring Boot. Okay. So I am uploading all the each and every concept step by step. You can go through it and you can learn. So if you like the videos, you can share and subscribe. Thank you guys. I will catch you in next lecture.